history class. Today we are going to be talking about Mesoamerican civilizations. Students from 8th grade section C made some podcasts that we are going to be presenting today. Guys, I would like you to be here. I know you're kind of busy with your exams, but I really want to present your projects because they were so nice, so amazing. So we are going to be presenting the podcast today, and we are going to be working the reflection in class. So we are going to begin with a little intro that I want to give you. Many years ago, there was Mexico was divided in a different way. It was not actually, we didn't even knew it as Mexico. It was Mesoamerica and Aridoamerica. Students from 8th grade section C studied civilizations that developed in Mesoamerica. The team number 1, conformed by Luis, Roberto, and Emiliano, are going to talk about the Mayas. So let's go and see their podcast.
Hi, we are three kids talking about Mayans, so let's go.
Hi, today we are going to explain the civilization of Mayas. The Mayas were one of the most important civilizations in Mexico. Here are some important facts. Their calendar is more accurate than the Gregorian calendar. Chichen Itza is visited by the fire serpent every year. It's a civilization that encompassed much of America. Its architecture is legendary. His writing system is one of the most remarkable. Also, the Mayas were a Mesoamerican civilization. Now Roberto is going to explain more info about Mayas.
Hi, I am Roberto and I'm going to tell you about the religion of the Mayans. Most of the Mayans today observe a religion composed of ancient Maya ideas, animism, and Catholicism. Some of the Mayas still believe, for example, that their village is the ceremonial center of a world supported at its four corners by gods. When one of these gods shifts his burden, they believe it causes an earthquake.
Hello, my name is Emiliana and I'm gonna explain about the Mayas. The Mayas, we are a very important and intelligent community that inhabit the most Mexican. This community is known of its great architecture traditions and its calendar so useful, and its mathematics are so advanced for it at the time. They were a very powerful community on the most important and with the more resource talents such the gold and many minerals, which were lost with the arrival of the colonizer. Ta-da! Thank you.
Thank you for your attention.
Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, team number 1, for this incredible podcast. I want to give you some interesting details about the Mayas that you might know or not. One of the things that I would like to emphasize is that, there was this triangle of hierarchy where they were like the rulers or the people with the highest level of power in their cities, and then the nobility and the peasantry, the rest of the society. The nobilities, they used to transform their heads with wood. They put it in their heads to modify them because they thought it was how can I say, like, I don't know the word. It was I forgot the word. Like unique they made them unique. That I think that's an interesting fact. The Mayas were a super advanced society. They built more than 60 cities, and they were inventors. They created the 260-day calendar. Some people say that the Mayas predicted the end of the world, but that was not true. It was a misunderstanding, a misinterpretation of what they did in this calendar. So guys, thank you so much, team number 1, for this podcast. Now let's go with team number 2, Melissa, Gaby, Carla, and Adriana, that are going to talk about the Toltecs.
Good morning and welcome to a new day on our podcast.
Yes, we're very happy because today we're going to delve a lot into a topic of our culture.
That's who it is today. We will talk about the Toltecs, a very beautiful, interesting, and important culture.
Yes, but many of those who listen to us sure don't know that what we are talking about. But that is why we are here today. So let's start with what we have prepared for you.
Yes, let's start with the most important. Who were the Toltecs?
The Toltecs were a Mesoamerican civilization that developed in the Mexican highlands between the 9th and 13th centuries, during the early post-classic period, in accordance with traditional Mesoamerican periodization. These are located in the central zone of present-day Mexico, and due to their great military power, they expand rapidly until they dominate the entire region.
Wow, that's so interesting.
Yes, it's incredible.
Wow, yeah, but does anyone know the location of this beautiful civilization?
The Toltecs belonging to the Nahuatl linguistic group like the Chichimecas and the Otomi settled in the region of Mexico highland during the 7th or 8th centuries. There they occupied the city of Teotihuacan, absorbed its cultural tradition, and imposed themselves on the peoples of the religion.
Wow, we should visit those places one day and record a podcast there, don't you think?
Yes, it will be incredible.
Wow, yes. Hey, but now let's talk about the traditions of that culture.
They are very interesting, eh? The traditions are warrior culture, the cult of the gods, the architecture of Tula, human sacrifice, and artisans and sculptors.
Wow!
Wow, how interesting all this. But I have a question. You know how did other ideologies influence your civilization?
Much of what it is known about the Toltecs is based on what has been learned about the Aztecs, another Mesoamerican culture that posted the Toltecs and admired the Toltecs as predecessors. Since so much of what remains on record about the Toltecs may have been tainted by Aztec glorification and mythology in the 14th through 16th centuries, it is difficult to parse out the true history.
Very good answer. I think similar.
Well, now let's talk about something that can be similar, and it is the customs.
Yes, the cultural hater influenced other peoples in the same region, such as the Mayas, who had settled there before them. The Toltecs enjoyed great prestige among the Aztecs, who welcomed several of the cultural aspects as their own. Also, his time was seen by many pre-Columbian peoples as Golden Age, where the arts, writing, goldsmith, and medicine predominated. Toltec society was multi-ethnic and highly stratified, whose most important case has the of warriors and have from them without war. There was no established the universe. Like the human sacrifice were common religions customs with the Toltecs. For them it was from a common and service to good. And since they considered that their lives depend and exist thanks of them, the main humans of friends and belief to Ken being were captives. Although more recent findings suggest that children between the age of 5 and 15 were also afraid.
Wow, all this is really interesting. And how do you think your civilization has influenced our current society ideologies?
Well, I think a lot, since several traditions that to Mexico have come from the Toltecs and even customs from wars, phrases, etc. And also in their lives, since starting to arrange a new culture can change your beliefs and interests.
Wow, yes. Well, now let's talk about the organization.
Yes. Of the two groups that made up the social organization of the Toltecs, the one that was in the first order was subdivided into 4 other groups, made up of military leaders, officials, the ruler, and priests, a system less common in other civilizations, where the priestly caste was at the head of the upper group. The lower class, considered by many to be stratum within the social organization of the Toltecs under a situation of exploitation, was made of a settler dedicated to agriculture together with artisans.
Wow, very good. I have a question. Are culture and ideology important in building a society?
Much discussed in recent times is the idea of the knowledge society. However, on closer inspection, we found that this is a highly concept and, moreover, it is associated with the new ideologies, of which 3 are discussed on the article. It is argued that these new ideologies are impacting on higher education, which consequently experience far-reaching cultural contradictions.
Wow, yeah, but let's go through the causes because Adriana has very interesting information for us, right?
That's right. That's right. That's right. Precisely at the time the Great Mayan collapse is framed another long drought, which this time lasts for 89 years in the middle of the 12th century, coincided with the disappearance of Toltec state. The tale between 100 and 144 occurred in the period of the rapid expansion of the Aztecs, and during the war scourge that plagued the area between 1540 and 1539. The Spanish arrived and began the conquest of Mexico. According to the many experts, in fact, the opinion that the causes of the social and political upheavals of the states of Mesoamerica were the climatic process is not without foundation. The well-being of the populations of the region depend a lot of agriculture.
How interesting. Well, finally, let's go to the origin.
Yes, the focus emerged around the year 850 with the fusion of various ethnic groups that evolved or arrived in the Valle of Mexico, such as the Toltec, Chichimecas, and Nonocas. Their first semen of Huarcan were there well led with mixed quad, serpent call. Well, that's all of today's podcast. I really love noting all this. It's very interesting.
I also thought it was something incredible, very pretty.
Me too, it's something very pretty.
Well, I hope you all like it and
See you in the next one.
Thank you so much for this podcast. It was really, really interesting. I also want to tell you some interesting details about the Toltecs. They came from the north of Mexico. Remember that they were nomads. They were not established in one place, so they had this long path through the north of Mexico when they finally established in what we know as Hidalgo. And then there is also another interesting fact about them. Their main god was Quetzalcoatl, and their language was Nahuatl. So thank you so much, girls, for this podcast. It was really cool. Now let's move on with team number 3, Jimena, Maria Fernanda, Beatriz Alejandra, and Cheyon. They are going to talk about the Olmecs.
Hello everyone that is listening to this podcast. I am Maria and here we are going to talk about the Mesoamericans, specific the Olmecs. To start this, we need to know what is a Mesoamerican. The Mesoamericans are the civilizations that were before the Spanish people come to here in Mexico. And one of the most popular Mesoamerican civilizations are the Olmecs, that here we are going to talk about with my friends Alejandra, Jimena, and Cheyon. Here I am going to talk about the traditions. The men wore mud flags and capes, clay-based necklaces, shells, and green stones. Also, interesting thing is that they also play in ball games, but there are no goats. Therefore, it is true that they play in outdoors. Did you know that the Olmecs were the first major civilization in Mexico? That's true. Also, did you know that the culture of Olmecs were the inspiration more or less to the culture of Maya? That is interesting. So, they are also known for the stone heads that can be found in different parts of Mexico. For example, there is an Olmec head in the Anthropology Museum of Jalapa, which is located in Veracruz. Now we are going to answer another questions. Where were the Olmecs? The Olmecs, today called Mother Culture, settled in what is currently the store of the states of Veracruz and northwest of Tabasco, and had its greatest capital in San Lorenzo Tenochtitlan, also in Tezapotes in Veracruz, and in La Venta in Tabasco. Now my friend Alejandra is going to continue with this podcast.
Okay, so let's start with the costumes. The Olmecans are believed to have worn leather or no clothing. This assumption is based on artifacts, particularly sculptures, that have been unearthed at Olmec society sites and credited to the ancient civilization. It is believed that if the Olmecs did wear clothing, it was simple in design, such as a loincloth or skirt. So, did you know that in Olmec society, status was not determined by what a person wore? Rather, a person's possession and accessories, such as jewelry, determined status in society. Okay, so let's continue with the origin and causes of the disappearance. Why they disappear? Okay, so it likely was a combination of natural ecological change and human action. The Olmecs relied on a handful of crops for their basic sustenance, including maize, squash, and sweet potatoes. Although they had a healthy diet, why this limited number of foods? The fact that they relied so heavily on them made them vulnerable to climate change. For example, a volcanic eruption could cause a region in age or change the course of a river. Such as a calamity would have been disastrous to the Olmec people. Less dramatic climate change, such as a drought, could severely affect their favorite crops.
Thanks, Alejandra, and now we are going to be with Jimena.
The political organization of the Olmecs was in the hands of what could be called like Shemikites, who protect their domain based on supposed divine instructions. The rulers and the priests were usually the same people, since the excessive concentration of power caused the Olmec people to submit the subjugation of the shaman kings or priest kings, who at the same time were part of the nodal relatives possessing excellent land of cultivations.
That is really interesting. Now we are going to be with Cheyon.
My part is about organization. Organization is a process of identifying and grouping the work to be performed, defining and delegating the responsibility and authority, and establishing the relationship for the purpose and enabling people to work most effectively together in accomplishing common objectives. About Olmec organization. The Olmec were the first medieval civilization in Mexico, appearing around 1600 BCE. The Olmec were among the first Mesoamerican complex societies, and their culture influenced many later civilizations like the Maya. The Olmec are known for the immense stone head they carved from a volcanic rock called basalt.
That is not all the information that we can find about the Olmecs. There are a lot of information about them. But now we are going to listen our reflections of the all participants of this podcast. My reflection about this civilization is that this civilization is one of the most popular, and I could say that the greatest civilization in Mesoamerica, because was the first civilization, and I think that is, well, it's really interesting and I'd like it to know, and I would like to continue learning about this.
In this summative, my favorite part was when we created summative part 1 and summative part 2 because, well, I will explain you why. The part 1 was because my part was like to investigate about the customs of the Olmecs, and something that made me surprised that I didn't know was that in the Olmec society the status was not determined like by a person, what a person wore. It's more matter of the person's possessions or accessories like jewelry and that determined its status in the society. And why I like the part 2? Well, the part 2 was to create a Jamboard and inquire some questions, add up videos, images, what you think, etc. So that was kind of interesting. I like it very much.
So I like this summative since it is give us the opportunity to get to know the Olmecs better, like their traditions, civilizations, etc. This summative gives us the importance of different civilizations, in this case the Olmecs.
I'm going to answer some question. First, is culture and ideology important in building a society? I think yes, because culture is often the property of society as a whole and a way of life. Ideas also have a lot of influence because they can be spread and practiced as a form of life by the whole society. And second, how was your civilization influenced by other ideologies? That is Toltec civilization. This civilization also influenced the cultural history of Mexico. Historians say that the Toltec appeared in central Mexico around the 10th century and founded the city of Tula with a population of about 30,000 to 40,000. And third, how do you think your civilization has influenced our actual social ideologies? I think it had a lot of influence on food, language, literature, etc. And number 4. Do you think that if your civilization had not existed, our actual society would be the same? I think if civilization did not exist, I think that today's social development, language, literature, art, infrastructure, and urban planning would or be left behind. That is all. Thank you for attention.
Thank you so much, girls, for this podcast. I totally agree with you. The Olmec civilization is one of the greatest ones because they were the first civilization in Mesoamerica. And this set a whole new era and a system that some other civilizations copied or got inspiration from. So, I want to give you some interesting details about the Olmecs. They were the ones that created the ball game, the Mesoamerican ball game. I know you have heard about it because we have talked about it in class. This ball game was with religious matters, and at the end of the game, the winners got sacrificed. They also invented the concept of zero. How amazing is this? Ask your mathematics teacher. How amazing is that someone can think about the concept of zero? And finally, they created the epigraphia, which is a type of writing that I would like you to investigate because it's really interesting. Thank you so much, team number 3, Jimena, Maria Fernanda, Beatriz, and Cheyenne, for this incredible podcast. Now, guys, we are going to continue with team number 4. We are not going to have enough time to see team number 5 and team number 6, but your podcast, guys, will appear in the social network of the school's social network, so you can check your podcast on Instagram and Facebook. So let's go to team number 4, Camila Isabel and Naomi Sofia, that are going to talk about the Mexicas.
Okay. Hello everyone, today in this podcast we will be talking about the Mexican civilization, also known as the Aztec civilization. First of all, its origins. The Mexican civilization were migrant people who arrived in Mesoamerica around the 13th, but local inhabitants didn't welcome them because they thought they were inferior and undeveloped people.
The Mexican people founded Tenochtitlan when they saw an eagle eating a snake on a nopal. They thought that it was a signal, so they decided to start founding Tenochtitlan there.
The Mexican civilization was located in central Mexico in the 14th to 16th centuries. Their tribute empire spread throughout Mesoamerica. In Nahuatl, the native language of the Aztecs, Aztec means someone who comes from Aztlan, a mythical place in northern Mexico. However, the Aztec referred to themselves as Mexica or Tenochtitlan. As well, the Mexican civilization took an important role in the history of Mexico because they were very important in Mexico history. They influenced in terms of architecture, agriculture, land, art, medicine, rituals, music, dance, and languages. They were also one of the lastest Mesoamerican people. Their clothing, like it, was remembered. The women basically only wore 2 garments, a long skirt called queitli, also actually called estanglement, and a long and loose shirt called huipili, actually called huipil or hipil. The huipili consisted in a long dress with a square neck. The men's and the warriors used basically the same simple clothing. The maxtlac and tilmatli
although some with arrangements, since with the same maxcloth cloth or with an extra piece of cloth, they made a kind of shell to protect their genitals, which was also adorned.
The empire usually wore jewelry or gold in their bodies. They were also recognized for their weird rituals towards their gods and/or their rare beliefs. Besides, they sacrificed human persons to recharge the strength of the sun because they think the sun was very important for their lives, and also their human sacrifices were to show their gods as an offering. The Mexicas is a part of the Mesoamerican civilization, best documented with sources that include archaeology, native books, codices, and extensive and detailed accounts of its Spanish conquerors, both military and Christian clergy. These latter sources may not always be reliable, but the image we have on the Mexica, their institutions, religious practices, warfare, and their daily lives enrich and continues to constantly expand with details added through the efforts and archaeologists and scholars of the 21st century. The Mexicans were the most powerful town from the Spanish people, arrived and conquered them. This town developed many important things for the world and agriculture. This polytheistic religion has many gods and goddesses, but the Aztecs would often incorporate deities that were borrowed from other geographic regions and people into their own religious practices. The cosmology of Aztec religion divides the world into 13 heavens and 9 early layers of netherworlds.
Now I'm going to tell you some interesting facts about the Mexica civilization. Renowned for being bloodthirsty warriors and for their penchant for mass human sacrifice, the Aztecs are estimated to have sacrificed to 20,000 people a year, and more than 4 times that when a particularly revered temple, especially any dedicated to Huitzilopochtli, was built. The Mexicans established Mexico Tenochtitlan, a settlement on an island in Lake Texcoco, a distant group in Mexico. Tenochtitlan separated and founded the settlement of Mexico. Tlatelolco went its own dynastic lineage. The Mexica of Tlatelolco were also known as Tlatelolco.
This is all for today. Thank you for listening to our podcast, and we hope you have a nice day.
Thank you so much, girls, for this podcast. Let me tell you some interesting details about the Mexicas. They were called the Aztecs, but then when they established in what we know as Tenochtitlan, which was the capital, they how can I say, like, unified with other civilizations that were there. They got together and then they changed their name to Mexica. When Hernán Cortés arrived to Tenochtitlan, he thought that the city was made of silver because everything was so beautiful, perfect. Everything was like white color because the Mexicas, they thought that cleanness was mandatory. So everything was super clean, and Hernán Cortés was shocked by this incredible city. Thank you so much to all the teams that participated in this program. Remember that Team 5, Maria Julissa, and Team 6, Brianna, Lucia, Valeria, and Jimena. Right now, we don't have time to continue with more podcasts, but your podcast, you can check your podcast in the social media of the school. Okay, thank you so much, guys. We will continue with the reflection in class. Have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
Hola, familia Liceo. Acompáñame a conocer a nuestros y nuestras docentes trascendentes que han formado parte de los primeros 30 años de nuestro colegio. ¿Cómo era el colegio cuando ingresó?
Bueno, cuando llegué el colegio ha cambiado muchísimo, desde los colores. hasta los nuevos edificios. A mí me tocó prácticamente la llegada al colegio cuando estaban estrenando recién la cafetería. Era de las novedades en aquel tiempo que ya teníamos una cafetería para todo el colegio.
¿Cómo le gustaría que el colegio evolucionara?
Me gustaría que el colegio en los próximos años siguiera potenciando la parte de plataformas educativas, que es como hoy en día hacemos el streaming, que cada vez tengamos más herramientas tecnológicas para los alumnos y que se pueda potenciar esa parte de desarrollo académico, y pues estemos en los primeros estándares de Nuevo León.
Él es el ingeniero Carlos Cisneros y es uno de nuestros docentes trascendentes y un gran orgullo para nuestra institución. Sigamos celebrando con gran entusiasmo el 30 aniversario del Liceo de Apodaca. ¡Ajá!